Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
You want to tell us what to evaluate you on?
That's a good idea. Let's see. My opening and closing, they're probably not going to be very good, so grill me on that. I don't know. And I think you guys have been evaluating for a long time, so I'm sure you guys will be able to pick me apart and then say something nice just to make me feel better. So, okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I've been looking for jobs recently, and one of the speeches that I recently gave, I talked about control systems and how that was an area that I would potentially want to get into. And another area that mechanical engineers often focus on is project management. And so to prepare myself for any sort of interview for a job in project management, I went online, and there's an institute called the Project Management Institute, and they have general guidelines on how to run a project well. And these are lessons that I think not only apply to engineering, but anybody who undertakes any kind of project, be it professionally or maybe a home improvement project. But I'm basically going to outline 5 basic steps that if you follow, you should be able to effectively manage and create and then complete any project that you set out to do. So like I said, there are 5 basic components to a project. There are really 4 stages plus a control and monitoring stage or process. Now the first stage of any project is obviously initiation. So if you're going to start a project, you have to sit down and say, hey, there's something that we want to do. You have to outline what your goals are, and you have to determine the nature and the scope of the project. Now what do I mean by scope? Well, scope is essentially all of the work that needs to be done in order to deliver a product, service, or result within the specified features and functions. So you have to define your scope, you review the resources that you're going to need, be they financial or personnel. So what are you going to need to actually get the job done based on what your goals are? You're going to have to do financial analysis and stakeholder analysis. So what is stakeholder analysis? Well, a stakeholder is anybody who has a stake in the outcome of the project. So you have to determine who that is. If it's a company project, who is it, the company in general, but also who within the company benefits. If it's a personal project, is it you benefiting? Maybe it's your neighbor. And once you have that first stage outlined, you move on to the planning and design phase. Now the planning and the design phase is where you broaden the scope, schedule, and budget, so you define a better picture of that. I don't say define completely, because the scope, the schedule, and the budget are dynamic things, and they will be changing throughout the whole process. So these are just making sure that you outline what you're going to be doing in a project is good, but you have to understand that with any sort of plan or outline, things are going to change. You are going to have to identify the deliverables, and if you're working in a team, basically identify who is going to do what different people's responsibilities are, and split up the work evenly. After you have gone through the planning and design stage, you then start doing whatever it is the project sets out to accomplish. So that's the execution phase. The execution phase is pretty straightforward. Whatever it is you want to do, go do it. Now, the most important part of any project, in my opinion, is the monitoring and control phase. So, like I said before, you can have a great plan, and you can think you have everything lined out, the budget, the schedule, the scope of the project, who's going to be working with it, but invariably in any project something is going to change, and you're going to have to come back and reassess how that change affects your project, your ability to complete your goals that you set out for yourself. So the monitoring and controlling, there are 3 basic parts of the monitoring and controlling cycle. It's really a continuous cycle. So you don't just do it once, you don't just do it twice, you keep on going until the project comes to a close. And there are 3 parts. The first is measurement. Where are we? Where in the whole process are we? How close are we to achieving our goals? Then there's the evaluation portion. Where did we plan to be? Okay, how far along the process did we intend to be at this point in time? And then the correction, if we are behind schedule, above cost, or did we lose a team member, whatever it is, how do we adjust, how do we get back on track and make sure that we are able to achieve our goals in the desired amount of time and with inside the right budget. The monitoring and controlling cycle, like I said, takes place throughout the entirety of the project. And I keep motioning to the board, and I have nothing written up on the board. I don't really know why I'm doing that, but just use your imaginations. Imagine I have this beautiful presentation here. And the last part of any project is obviously the end, the closing part. So this is where you deliver the final result. You finalize all activities so that you don't just have one team member continuing to scribble away at his desk for the next 3 weeks, even though the project's over and everybody's gone home. And you go back over the project with all the personnel involved. So by doing that, you'll be able to document lessons learned. What did you do well? What could use improvement? And when we start the next project, how are we going to do an even better job? So going back over those 5 steps, it's initiation, planning and design, execution, monitoring and controlling, which is a continuous part of the process, and closing. So hopefully, the next time you undertake a project, you'll be able to put it all together, outline your goals, and go get it, and do it efficiently. Mr. Toastmaster, there you are.